You may remember a few weeks ago I did a test of a dash camera that cost me €20 from a shop called EuroGiant, which is a sort of Irish pound shop, except selling things for £1. They sell them for €1.49, but they also sell some strange electrical gadgets and gizmos of dubious quality, dare I say it. The results of my test were that it was rubbish. Basically, the image quality was unusable, and the sound quality was just non-existent. You can't even say it had rate the quality because there was just a horrible buzz and clicking sound on the soundtrack. So it was rubbish, basically. Being a glutton for punishment, I was in EuroGiant again, looking to get some snacks for the kids one day. We were going out to the playground, as you do, and I seen this, and I thought, well, you know, €15, what's the worst could happen? A micro DV camera. Let's have a look at the box, shall we, to see what sort of claims are being made. So what we got here, video format AVI, encoder is MJPEG. They're being honest, a lot of the times they don't tell you that. Resolution 720 by 480 VGA. Bit of an odd resolution because VGA is 640 by 480, so yeah, it's an unusual resolution. Frame rate 30 frames per second, not bad. Image ratio 4:3. Nope, 720 by 480 is not 4:3, but anyway, I'm not going to make an issue of that. Interface type is 5-pin USB mini. That's the old type. It really isn't used anymore. It's going back a few years. It's all micro SD now. Sorry, micro USB. And the storage is micro SD up to 8. It's up to 8 gigabytes, by the way. So this kind of tells you the age of the technology behind this, because any half decent action camera these days would take SDHD, which goes up to 64, 128 gigabytes. Capture your next adventure forever. Very nice. So yeah, let's have a look inside the box and get on with it. So there we go. What we have here. There's the camera itself. It is quite small. It's very compact. You could easily hide that away somewhere. There's a head strap. Actually, before I show you that, there's this mechanism for clamping the camera into, and that there, the clip clamps into it. It's a bit loose, but it's not too bad. And then there's this little stand it'll clamp into if you want to record stuff like that, or like that, if you want to use it as a sort of no surveillance camera or whatever. It's not the best. I believe it's also magnetic. See if I can find something metal to attach it onto. I'm in a workshop and I've got absolutely nothing metal. Oh dearie dear. Oh, here we go. I'll use this antenna tuner. Yeah, it's supposed to be magnetic, but it isn't. And that's definitely magnetic, that case. What else do we have? You got the head strap here, which is really uncomfortable. You'd have to put that around a helmet, but I wouldn't even rate the security on it. There's no rubber or friction pads or anything like that to hold it in place. USB cable and a little lanyard, and there's the manual. Let's have a quick ganders at it. Micro DV camera. Charge the battery. Record the video. Sound control. I'll tell you about that in a second. Auto power off. Power off. It's actually a really basic camera. There's not a lot to it. So I'll cover really what's in the manual as I go through it. So where did I put the bloody thing? There it is there. So anyway. So the first issue, well, the first thing I'd like to talk about is recharging and power. If I plug it into my weird looking USB charger plug here, which is a HTC, it's from my phone, plug it into the charging slot there. What's supposed to happen is a blue light comes on, but there is also a red light there, which you can barely see. So for some reason, to let you know it's charging, the blue light comes on, but the red light flashes, and when the red light becomes stable, it's charged. Now I've actually had this plugged in for about 6-7 hours, and it's never reported back that it's been charged. It's just stayed like this all night. So, but it seems to be charged anyway. It claims to have a 2-hour battery life, which I've managed to get about 1 hour and 15 minutes out of it. So, you know, it's not, for the price, that's not too far away. No. The next issue, which I noticed, is actually the putting in the USB. Now, I don't know if you can see it. Sorry, the micro SD card. But you can't really see it here. See if I can bring some light forward. No. Basically what it is the actual slot that the micro SD card goes into isn't flush with this. And what I noticed was the first time I put the SD card in, it seemed to go in like that, but then it disappeared and I couldn't get it out. Turns out, because the slot isn't flush, if you don't sort of put it in at the correct angle, and by that I mean, you know, pushing it down here so that it goes in that way there, so against the board, it'll just drop into the body of the camera. So what I had to do was open it up, which you can do actually, unlike the last camera I tested from EuroGiant. There's 4 little screws that let you open it up, and yeah, and I had to retrieve it and then I learnt my lesson, because the actual electronics on the inside aren't fitted very well. They're not exactly flush, and that's visible. You can tell that from the fact that the lights aren't that visible. So anyway, in terms of actual use, I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and put the card in properly. I'll show you what it looks like. So it is a bit fiddly to get it in. On one side you have the power button. On the other side you have a mode button. And on the top you have the start-stop recording button. So switch it on. Like this. A few seconds. Get the red light. Oh, that's the red light from the camera. Come on, let's see if it switches on. There we go. Blue. And when you want to start recording, you would press this. Now, I don't know if you can see it. There's a red light flashing, and that's to tell you it's recording. So there's a red light reflecting off the camera, which ignore that, off the video camera. It's the red light inside here that's flashing. Problem is that's impossible to see in daylight. Even the blue light's impossible to see in daylight, so you don't really know if it's recording or not. I suspect that there's a bit more of a gap in the body here, and the red LED was supposed to be closer up here and more visible, but manufacturing problems, it didn't happen out that way. So when you stop, the red light stops flashing. Now to talk about mode. Now the thing with mode is sound recording mode. So what happens there is, supposedly if it detects a sound over 60 decibels, it'll start recording. So let's see if this works. Ah! Ah! Oh! But it doesn't work, that's the thing. I've tried and tried and tried, and it just does not respond to the loudest noises. But now I'm back into regular mode and it starts recording straight away. So the lack of feedback is an issue. It's one of these things is I wouldn't rely on this mode switch at all. It doesn't work. So just stick, if you're going to use it, just stick with standard start stop, pressing the button here. Okay, now there isn't a huge much more I can tell you about this camera. That's pretty much it. What you're probably more interested in is picture quality. So what I'm going to do is I'll stop that, turn it off for a second, turn it back on again, and I'm going to take some footage here just to show you what it's like using our mascot. I call him Enda Kenny. See, this is what happens when you have like 10 quid left on a prepay card and you hit Deal Extreme some nights on that Chinese website that sells all the fantastic, weird and wonderful stuff. You end up buying something like this. And why is he not balancing? He normally balances. Look at him. He looks like Eminem trying to eat a postman. Maybe that's what it is. Who knows? The listing said it was called Attack. It was from the series Attack on Titan, which I understand is a Japanese manga, and I've looked it up and I can't see that character anywhere, so I don't know. I'm not really into manga, but here we go. So, so we've got the red flashing light. Let's see. Hold it steady for a bit. Around here, and a shot of my extremely messy workbench. Function generator. Multimeter. So there you go. As you can tell, really not very good quality at all. Here is some sample clips which I shot outdoors. Being an action cam, I tried to attach it to my dog. That didn't quite work out. But then I just did a bit of walking around the streets just to show you what it was like. The image size looks reduced because I'm putting it in its native resolution. The actual video file you're watching on YouTube is built for high definition 1080 lines. This is 720 by 480, so I'm just going to show it in a small box so it's at its native resolution. A mixture of daytime shots and nighttime shots. I'm not going to do much. Sorry, I'm not going to put in a very long video because, honest to goodness, it's pretty clear straight away how bad it is. So, oh, did it fall off?
Yes. It did. I picked it up by you.
Thank you, Josie May. Oh well.
Thank you, so happy.
Woo, Botox.
Hold your hand.
No.
Look at the picture.
Hello.
Me and Applejack.
There you go. But I'll have to get it on the computer before we can see it.
Yes, I think like that.
I'm testing this camera. A quick note about the timestamp on the upper left. Unfortunately, it cannot be turned off. I have tried and I can't. And the way you set the time is by putting the current date and time into a tag file that is created on the SD card the first time you record. And so long as the battery has power in it, it'll keep updating the time. But yeah, you can't turn it off, unfortunately. So to summarise, what do I think of it? Well, I'm actually not hugely disappointed, surprised as surprising as that may sound. Compared to the dash cam I got for €20, which just didn't work. You know, they had like I said earlier, the video quality was terrible. The sound quality was terrible, and they lied about the kind of battery that was inside it. It just didn't work. It just didn't work. This actually does work. Now, of course, you have noticed in the video, it sort of has that weird slanting, blocky effect when you move. Now, that's cheap electronics. A good quality dash cam or action cam. Why am I saying dash cam? I mean action cam, but you know what I mean? Like a GoPro. It would have enough bandwidth, and bandwidth is the amount of room, the amount of information it can process at once, to like take a whole image from the camera sensor, hold it in a buffer, process it properly as a single image. So you're literally capturing one image in time, an entire image in a fraction of a second. This is obviously doesn't have the good enough electronics to do that. What it's doing is it's capturing one line at a time and processing that line and saving it out to disk. But by the time it's done that, the camera's moved on to the next line. So what you're getting is this slanty effect when the camera moves fast. And that's what you get in cheap cameras. There's not a lot. No, if you want, there's no way around that. Maybe in 10 years, 15 years from now, when the technology that's currently used in GoPro on good action cameras has come down in price, you might find them in cheap cameras. But don't hold your breath. But that being said, it's not an action camera. So, okay, if it's not an action camera, well, what's it for then? I would actually say this is a good camera for like filming meetings, or if you were like fancied yourself being an investigative television journalist and you wanted to record some hidden footage, this would actually be a good way of doing it, because so long as you're not moving fast, it actually does record okay video. Sound's not great. You may have noticed it does have this horrible hum in the background. which I suspect is because the electronics are just pretty poorly designed. They haven't shielded the audio side of the circuit from the video side and the power side. Still, you know, there are uses for a camera like this, even though the picture and sound quality aren't that great, because it is actually usable. And like you say, you get over about an hour's battery life out of it. It is usable. So, like I say, if you wanted a really cheap knockabout camera that you wanted to give to your kids, or you wanted something that you could use covertly and you didn't care too much about sharp image quality and you're not moving around that much, great. But if you're actually going to buy it thinking you could use this for skateboarding or BMX biking or stuff like that, it's not going to work. So, there you go. Not as bad as you'd think for €15.